One thing that was interesting about Barcelona, they have Uber, but they do not have Lyft. And I believe that there's another one that they have we didn't try, but it was kind of interesting. So I had some small level of anxiety about going to Barcelona. I actually really enjoy walking around European cities where I don't speak the language. I mean, I like it better when I do speak the language, but that part, it's neither here nor there when I'm just walking around and having a port day or doing a day on my own, and that's fine and fantastic, and I actually love it. It gives me great joy to just walk around a European city and just, do I go left or do I go right? Where do I go? And it's so completely random and arbitrary, but I always end up finding something amazing, without exception. Okay, correction, one exception, Vigo. Didn't see much there, but it was a rainy day. Everything was closed. So Vigo notwithstanding, walking around a European city, I don't know that I've ever really had a bad time. That is absolutely lovely. So why did Barcelona bring up anxiety for me? And the reason was this. I was flying in the day before my cruise, and so the difference is I had to get to the cruise port by a certain time. And so that little bit of time pressure and having a specific target that I needed to hit there, where I was surrounded by people that I might not be able to communicate effectively with, that was giving me a little bit of anxiety. So managing to get from the airport to the hotel, checked into the hotel, and then from the hotel to the port. But it was largely fine. Getting picked up from the Barcelona airport was kind of funny because we get out there, and the Barcelona airport has Wi-Fi, so thank you very much, Barcelona airport. Most airports nowadays have free Wi-Fi, but not all necessarily, and some of it's time limited, so thank you, Barcelona airport. I will always be grateful for free Wi-Fi. You know, it's good to practice gratitude, and that's one area where I definitely am happy to do so. We were trying to book it, and the Uber app kept recommending taxis, which was interesting, but the taxis were more than the Ubers would have been, but the Ubers were sort of, there weren't any available. But we had landed several hours before our check-in time for the hotel that we had time to kind of keep trying, and eventually we did. And in the Uber app at the Barcelona airport, it's not really abundantly clear where you're supposed to go for a pickup. And we're just walking around trying to figure out, using the GPS a little bit. And so we were like, oh, maybe it's over here sort of in this island, like away from the airport, this sort of meridian thing. And so we head out there and we're like, we're not sure if we're in the right place. We're really worried, whatever. Several minutes go by, more than I would like to admit. And then I look down at the ground and see that it has painted the Uber logo on the ground nearly right in front of us. So thankfully, through GPS and our own intuition, we had found the right place, but it took us a while to realize it. We were expecting, I think, a sign on a pillar or something at eye level, but this was painted on the ground in the road. So had there been several Ubers there idling, for example, which there probably wouldn't have been, but maybe if there was a backlog and people called it before they got the luggage, whatever, if there had been a bunch of Ubers there waiting, or maybe timed pickup, something like that, you wouldn't have necessarily been able to see the sign on the ground because the cars would have been on top of it. But in Barcelona, and actually this seems pretty consistent across Spain, is that the Ubers are really well marked. Like, there's livery on the side of these vehicles, and a lot of taxis also function as Ubers as well, which is interesting. So maybe that's part of why they have Uber, but they don't have Lyft, because I'm thinking Spain's requirements in terms of licensing, insurance, but probably more likely branding, I think, is probably why Lyft hasn't penetrated Spain yet. So that was interesting. But, you know, we got to where we were going largely fine, although it was funny because the Lyft that did pick us up was having trouble with his app. And so we get into the vehicle, and he's like tapping away on his phone before he starts driving. And there's the option that comes up, and Sam had booked this particular Uber. And so this option comes up to give us a rating, to give Sam a rating. So he gave him a full 5-star rating as a passenger, which, reminder to those of you who use Uber and Lyft, you get rated as a passenger. So be a nice and kind passenger. You are the customer, but I think that if you get a low rating, I'm not an expert here, but I would think a low rating, you're more likely to get rejected for rides and things like that. So I think that's good. That's accountability on both sides of that transaction. Both the driver and the customer kind of has an incentive and accountability for their behavior. I think that's great. So Sam and I were joking like, oh, I have a 4.88, he's got a 4.85, or vice versa, or something like that rating. And so it's just kind of funny. It's like, who's the nicer client? And that's kind of like, I don't know, that's fun. Like, what's your rating? I'm curious. Let us know. And what's been your experience with Uber? Like, if you have less than, say, a 4-star customer rating. What has your experience been? Because mine has been largely lovely, almost without exception. There was one pretty rough exception in LA that I've talked about on a previous podcast, but other than that, been very positive. And so I think that maybe that might have something to do with my customer rating. So anyways, he rates Sam in the app, and then like the app is like, oh, would you like to hire a new ride, or whatever. And I'm looking over his shoulders, he's doing this, and he's like, I don't know what's going on. She's like, okay, well, the app's being strange. He tries reloading it multiple times, doesn't work. He asks where we're going, but it was in Spanish with a little broken English, and Sam really didn't know how to, I think, say anything in Spanish. So I just brought up the address of the hotel on my phone, and then I kind of showed him so he could, like, look at it as he typed it in. And so we're going along, and he goes, don't worry about it, guys. Probably a free ride because I canceled. And so that was kind of interesting because he thought that he had canceled and wasn't going to get paid at all. He thought it was a free ride, yet he still continued to take us to the hotel. So we definitely, I hope Sam gave him 5 stars and a decent tip. Because what was interesting is after we got to the hotel, he gets out and he helps us with our luggage, and he helped us put our luggage in the car as well. So I normally like to tip somewhat based on that, but because the app was going crazy, we didn't even know if we'd have an opportunity in the app to tip. So the trip was supposed to be something like 16, 17, 18 euros, something like that, to take us to the hotel. And so it looked like we were getting it for free. So what I did is I just gave him 5 euros, which was the smallest paper denomination of euros I had on me, as a tip after he took the luggage out. So that, worst case scenario, let's say that ride was completely free. At least he's getting 5 euros for his trouble, because I feel bad. There's a tiny marginal amount of wear and tear on the vehicle, but the gas. I didn't actually check what kind of vehicle it was. Maybe it was electric, I don't know, but the fuel of whatever kind. So I felt a little bad for him, and I didn't want him to go completely just screwed because he didn't know how to use the app properly, or it crashed. Maybe it wasn't under his control, so I didn't think that was really fair. And so I gave him €5. And then once we got into the hotel on the hotel Wi-Fi, Sam brings up the app, and basically what it did is it measured as if he had driven us like 100 meters down the front of the airport and dropped us off. For whatever reason. And then that was going to charge us something like, I don't know, like €8 or something. Which was weird, but I guess like it's kind of like a taxi. You pay a pickup rate, and then there's the marginal distance after that. Maybe it's calculated that way. I don't know. But that was interesting. So in the end, I think, like the app probably charged about €8. And so I tipped 5, so that puts us at 13, and then I don't know what Sam might have done as a potential tip on top of that. I haven't asked. I'll find out later when we figure out who owes who what. I paid for the hotel. He paid for the part of the Uber anyways, and I paid for part of it too. So we'll sort all that stuff out when we're back in Canada. But it was kind of interesting, that whole experience in Barcelona and the rideshare.